Hi, I'm Bryan Erwin, Executive Director for Taking Action for Suffolk County. A few weeks ago, we met in Jamesport with the Riverhead Indivisible Group, and I conducted a training on voter outreach and voter engagement for low information and non-habitual voters. It's a basic training, a very low impact, easy training, I think, to allow you to go out and be an entrepreneur for voters who share our collective progressive values. In the room were a lot of great activists, people who are upset at what's going on, want to fight back however they can. What we're going to talk about today is to give you the tools, which you already have, for each of us to try to find 10 voters. It's pretty basic, it's pretty straightforward because we're starting so early. Let's Visit Lee Zeldin alone has 2,700 followers on Facebook. If each of you in Let's Visit Lee Zeldin finds 10 voters who didn't vote last time, whether they weren't registered or they are registered and just didn't show up at the polls, or they showed up at the polls, pulled the lever for Hillary and walked out, didn't vote down ballot, which happens as well. That's 27,000 votes you just cut alone. Let's Visit Lee Zeldin just cut Lee Zeldin's vote total, his vote margin in half. Just you all. Now imagine we're able to stitch together the other groups. Now we're really cooking with gas, right? My job is to provide that infrastructure, and we'll go over exactly what that is, by which you're able to reach those 10 people, by which you're able to engage those 10 people and listen to whatever the issues that they care about. And then what we're going to have is we're going to have a lasting, progressive political infrastructure, a political machine that we can tap into every election, because it's not going to stop in 18 or 19 or Donald Trump resigns in 3 months if we're that lucky. Doesn't matter, right? That's fundamentally what Taking Action for Suffolk County is about. So this is how we're going to work starting now, April 1st. Maybe think about 10 people that didn't pull the trigger last time that you think, you're guessing, you may not be 100% sure, but you think they would be for us. Again, not even your friends, but just mild acquaintances, right? You know, your hairdresser, the person who at 7-Eleven who pours your coffee that you have a nice rapport with. What about the guy that changed the oil in my car, right? We always joke around about the Mets. Seems like a cool guy. All you have to say at this stage is, hey, what do you think about all this stuff that's going on? It's pretty crazy, right? How are you dealing with it? How do you feel? And then take 3 steps back and just listen. Your work is done for the day at that point. You're just going to listen. And eventually, they'll let something slip. They'll say, how the hell am I going to afford college for my kids, right? Or you know what? The way they're treating women is really disturbing. You don't, and even at that point, you don't have to engage. Just nod and say, yeah, I agree. This is kind of nuts, isn't it? Note that person. You know who that person is. You know where they live, if you know where they live at the very least. And then once you kind of agglomerate this, Laura agglomerates this, right? And we'll look at it. We have a critical mass. Let's say we have a critical mass of 20 people who care about reproductive rights, right? You know, this makes me uncomfortable. The government's getting in my business in my bedroom. Maybe we'll ask someone to host a house party. Our organization will pay for the coffee and donuts and the pizza. And you would invite those people to that house party. You know, I know you mentioned what's been going on with Planned Parenthood's really disturbed you. You know, I'm having a house party. There's someone coming up from Washington who's an expert on this. Why don't you come on by, right? And we'll have wine there and we'll hang out. We're listening to concerns, whether it's national concerns or down to, I'm a little bit worried about what's coming out of my tap, right? Whatever it is. I'll provide that financial infrastructure. We'll engage on their terms. We track this. And then that house party we had, come October of election year, we have earned the right to ask those people, your friends, for their vote. We have to think about voting tactically. Maybe your neighbor, solid Democrat, so you don't need to bother them, but your neighbor has 2 twin boys that are 16. They'll be 18 in a couple years and ready to vote. If those 2 twin boys who live next door to you, if they're going to the University of Rhode Island does not need their vote. They can vote absentee back here at home, right? Make sure they get their absentee ballot, and knowing college kids, making sure they fill it out, have their parents lean on them a little bit. There are some votes right there. You know, you may think about the soft Trump voter if you want. And if they tell you, you know what's bugging me? those lousy liberals won't give Donald Trump a chance. Well, now you have your answer. We'll move on, right? They're still your friend, but we'll move on. If they say, you know, even watching Fox, this Russia stuff is weird. There's your hook, right? I'm not saying we should start picking arguments. I think we can, because one thing we do know is that those who did vote for Trump probably are going to give him and Zeldin a lot of rope before they turn on him. I think there's enough fish in the pond with folks who didn't vote who probably lean our way. We can start there. But I'm not going to stop anyone from maybe that trade union guy that voted to make America great again, and you're thinking, well, what's going on with your pension, your ability to have your pension fully funded, right? Again, we'll go visit those guys at the end of the year and see how they're thinking, right? But right now, those who didn't vote in your networks, and just start thinking broadly about those who you have some sort of conversational relationship with, where you can approach them and just ask, how are you doing? Again, it's just basic, you're being friendly human beings, so you don't need me to tell you how to do that, just you being you, and being friendly human beings and listening, right? The less you talk, the more persuasive you are, right? I'm tired of, we have to fall in love for us to get out to the polls. We have to fall in love with a Barack Obama, right? We have to fall in love with a John Kennedy, right? We have to fall in love with a Bill Clinton. The old saw is Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. I'm not saying anyone has to fall in line here. What I am saying is I want a political infrastructure such that we can put up, by the way, as vetted out by you all, we can put up candidates up and down the ballot, right, that have a very, very good chance of winning, and they don't have to be a once-in-a-generation talent, right? Frankly, if we have a person that we can put up that espouses our values, is a hard worker, I am happy to get that person in. I don't necessarily need to find Barack Obama Jr. out there anywhere else. I just want to start winning elections consistently. Thanks to Laura, thanks to all of you and all the groups around the country, frankly, but especially here in the county, we have a solid 5-month head start on where the Tea Party was back in '09. That's exciting. My argument is we need to take advantage of that head start, because here's the bad news, right? The Tea Party, all they need is their righteous anger, right? If they're angry, they are going to vote, right? Our coalition, it's older white people, it's young people, it's people of color. We've got to stitch that together. And some of those groups aren't frequent voters. What I can promise you this. The coalition to elect the candidates that we all would favor, it's out there. It's absolutely out there. Those hardcore Trump voters, you don't have to get in an argument with them. Don't worry about them. There's enough people out there who don't vote, who probably lean our way. And what the political science shows, and this is the important thing, a person is more likely to vote when they hear from someone they know and trust and like. If they know you and they're your friend, and you're listening to what concerns them, not talking at them, but listening to what concerns them, it's a high probability that that person will show up at the polls and vote because they heard from you, their friend. Much more than a TV ad, much more than a stranger knocking on their door. They're friends and neighbors, people they like and trust. We're going to have this in as much of a social manner, face-to-face, that we can.
What do you write down? What do you note? What do you need from us in terms of information about the person we talk to? Do you need name, address, email, phone number, issues?
The more information, the better. So all of those things, registered, not registered. But if you can't fill all those out, that's okay. If you know their name and you know Jamesport, we'll try to look at the voter rolls and see, we'll cross-reference it. More information, the better. And then we can start backing in and filling out that skyline as time goes on.
I know their names. I know where to find them. And I have a list of all their concerns.
Yep.
And then we get them all to you. And then you sit down and you look at all of them and you make a pile of this concern, that concern. And then you decide who's our first educational speaker.
Yeah.
And then we go back to all our people who have that concern. And that's a nice kind of appropriate way to follow up.
Yep.
It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a speaker on that. Would love for you to come.
Right. Free beer. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, whatever it takes, right?
You can email it to me, text it to me, I don't care what you do, but get it to us so we can forward it to you.
Thanks, everybody. Taking Action for Suffolk County is an independent expenditure, nonprofit political organization. What we are doing, as we've described in these preceding videos, is we are building a progressive political infrastructure to elect candidates that share our values up and down the ballot, not only in the forthcoming election cycles of 2017 and 2018, but in the out-year election cycles of 2020, 2022, 2024. The idea is that we're going to build this lasting political infrastructure to turn Suffolk County blue once and for all. That said, this is going to take some time, and of course it's going to take some money. So if you're considering giving to progressive organizations, consider giving to Taking Action for Suffolk County, as all those dollars will stay here in the county to elect candidates in your hometown and in your home districts. And we're going to make sure we're reaching every voter we can to build this lasting political infrastructure.